This video will be episode 39, starting on day 272 of the Black Lion Origins campaign. Last episode, we laid siege to and took for ourselves 5 castles with our one clan kingdom. We did this over the span of 19 days, which means we averaged about 4 days per siege, which this early in the campaign I am duly proud of. And during the course of taking those fiefs, we were declared war upon by the Northern Empire and the Western Empire and the Valandians. And we're also still at war with the Battanians. So while I was taking this last castle of Talavel, which is a Valandian cultured fief that was owned by the Western Empire, we were laid siege to at our castle of Veron. Or Veron, whichever. Anyway, so that siege has actually been brewing for quite a little while because we were had to finish the siege we were at. And so I'm in a bit of a pickle. I need to rush over to Veron to lift that siege. So what we're going to do is I've taken all of the archers into my warband, and I've shuffled out 2 of my warbands out of my army, and I kept a third. Artie is still in my army because you always want to have one companion warband in your army when defending these sieges, especially at castles, because after the battle, you can put your prisoners in your companion's warband's party and then jump in the castle, and he will sell all of those prisoners, so they won't go to waste. He will gain roguery EXP and character level EXP, and those profits will go into your bank account. So what we're doing for this siege defense, my warband was entirely archers, and so what we're doing is we're putting our archers in a big long line, and then we're going to have the castle's militia grouped together in a square. They're going to be kind of the sacrificial lamb for this battle because we are outnumbered. The reason why I dropped 2 of my warbands was so I could get here quickly, but that also means that I have less troops to defend it with, this castle siege with, and so I'm going to put my archers on engage and put my infantry in a square formation so that these enemy infantry will get hung up and be beating on that square formation, and that'll give my archer line free reign to just totally dominate their lines, or so that is the plan. So now that I've got my archers backed up past the square, I'm going to give them the F1, F6 command to make them hold their ground so they can just rain arrows down on this enemy infantry. And you can see from the kill feed this is working quite well, considering we were outnumbered. And even on the power bar, I mean, the enemy's obviously got a lot of low-level troops here, but they had us slightly outmatched even on the power bar. One of my viewers commented on a recent video that I ought not to speed up my battles so much. This is only sped up like 20%, which is that's as sped up as I've ever had it in this series. but I am kind of agreeing with him that I ought to, in the future, slow down my battles so that they're easier to watch. Like, a lot of the cool moments of the battle happen pretty quickly, and if they're sped up, then they're kind of hard to catch. So I think in future series I will run the battles at regular speed, and I will just skip battles that aren't decisive, aren't interesting, aren't difficult, and that way there'll be time of an episode to find those battles, and I won't be boring you to death at regular speed in the battles that we're clearly going to win. So I think that'll be how I fix that issue in future series, but for now we're just going to go ahead and finish as we started. I like to get off my horse to whack these guys. I don't know, it's easier to control your swings when you're on foot. If you're not planning on going a long distance, then you're better served to be off your horse, in my opinion. So we're dumping all of our prisoners into Artie's group. Or no, it's not Artie, I'm sorry. I called him Artie earlier, but it's not, it's Rob. Anyway, dumped all the prisoners into his group, and we're going to see if we can't catch these 7. We obviously won that fight, and we didn't suffer any casualties. But, yeah, sometimes you can't catch one of those warbands after a battle because they aren't suffering any disorganization debuff from the battle, because their warband has been reduced to less than 10 troops. So we've got another siege at Drumore and another at Talval. Oof, and now another at Abcomer. So we're looking at 3 sieges. And Drumore is actually the oldest of those 3, but these are so close that I can't justify not dealing with them before I head out. Man, these Vlandians just declared war on me as I was passing through their lands with my army to Talavel from, I believe it was Garantor. I was defending a siege. Or maybe it was when I took Thractor, I can't remember. Anyway, so they saw me passing through their lands with my army, and they decided to declare war. And so these are fresh armies. They put 3 armies together practically instantly, and here we are. So I met up with my other warbands. That was something I neglected to mention. I like to, even though I didn't want those guys in my army, because they would slow me down, my other 2 warbands. I didn't want them in my army, but I didn't want them wandering around getting themselves killed either. So as soon as I told them to leave my army and created a little distance between us, I then told them to join my army so that they would follow me around. And in that way, if they did get themselves in trouble, they would at least be nearby my location, and I could maybe help them out. But also, it was good because it didn't take them 2 days to get to my location when I needed them to fight these battles here at Talavel and Abcomer. So I'm setting this up with my archer line, and then my infantry in a shield wall formation, a very thin shield wall formation, just behind them. That thin shield wall formation isn't so that maybe I can, stop the cavalry line. I don't expect to ever do that. but if their cavalry were to run through my archer formation, they would meet those veteran Falksmen on the other side, and likely their doom. I'm gonna go ahead and do my customary solo assault on the enemy army while they're trying to set up their lines and decide on their battle strategy. I had told my archers to engage the enemy infantry, but I hadn't anticipated that they were going to move their archers out in front of their infantry lines also. So we had a little archer off about 20 meters away from each other. Kind of hysterical. And we dominated that exchange. Though not without losses. So I shouldn't brag too much. I moved my infantry line up so that my archers aren't all on their own. It looks like these cavalry are attached to the infantry group, which is why they're slow walking towards my soldier lines, which I'm fine with because it gives me plenty of opportunity to deal with them as they do so. And remember, the most of the bulk of the enemy archers are already dealt with, so pretty comfortable to put my shield on my back and swing my polearm two-handed. So we've got our archers on F1, F4, and so they're able to stay away from the enemy infantry and turn around and take shots on occasion, which is working out real nice. But I think we've got them reduced enough that we can just go ahead and finish this. So we won this battle pretty handedly, which is important because remember we've got another army or two armies totaling about 900 to deal with after this, and then another siege at Drumore. So we'll see how we do from here. And try and pick up all the kills I can, but I suppose at this point I really ought to just hit the tab button and end the battle. It's not really worth it to keep you guys waiting and watching just so that I can pick up an extra couple of kills. Sorry about that. I'll do better in the future. A little bit of a waste of time. I mean, it's not totally a waste of time because I highly recommend picking up all the kills you can from a battle because you might as well have that EXP. But we're at such a point in our character's development that it wouldn't be that big of a deal to let that go for the viewer's sake. Now, I always get that bottom leadership tier 3, or it's at skill level 75, that leadership perk, because it's awesome. Not only is it great for your characters to get, like your companions to get, because it's an extra +1 loyalty if you want to use them as a governor, but it also is one of the best captain perks, which makes it so that all of the troops in your unit that you're a captain over, the kills that they get count for extra damage to the enemy morale, so they will break and retreat all the faster. So yeah, that is a huge perk that someday I'll I'll go through all of the, or at least I hope to. I'm not going to promise to, but I would like to someday go through all of the perks in a video and explain what I pick and why I pick it. Not that mine is absolutely the correct and only and definitive way to do things, but I do generally try to do things for a good reason. And what's the point of having a YouTube channel and making videos if you're not going to use that soapbox once in a while, you know? And I know there's plenty of people that are confused and or undecided on how they want to build their characters. And there's a lot of people out there, a lot of loud voices and popular voices that are advocating for some builds that I would never condone or advocate myself. So I ought to spend some time trying to enlighten my viewers, or at least putting my my opinion forth. Anyway, I'm of course harrying my enemy as they are trying to get into position on my troops. They're obviously the aggressors. They've already started the battle for this siege, so the militia of Abcomer are joining me in this battle, which is great because I need all the bodies I can get. These are not bad troops. Those Pavis shields mean either tier 4 or tier 5 crossbowmen, so those guys are dangerous at range and up close. And of course the Vlandians are never shy of cavalry, which is in large part the reason why I was doing as much work as I could on the enemy infantry. It was to enrage the enemy cavalry to attack my troops ahead of their infantry. If you can get them to separate their efforts, and then you can destroy the enemy's units in detail, then all the better. So I belatedly put my infantry in a square formation, and you can see on the kill feed that we're suffering for it, but you can also see on the power bar for the battle that while the Vlandians definitely had the upper hand, they no longer do. I went ahead and gave my archers the hold fire command and had them oh, I didn't. I maybe should have. But those Battanian Fiends are some of the best. Those, in my opinion, are the best shock troops in the game. They have all of the athletics that they need in order to create space when they need it. I mean, they've got more athletics than any other troop in the game, which is really important when it comes to melee combat. Their loadout isn't incredibly heavy, but it is reasonably protective, and they've got the best two-handed skill of any troop in the game. So not only are they the best archers, they're also the best shock troops, in my opinion, and that makes them the most versatile and useful troop in the game. But it's fantastic because when the enemy troops engage on your square formation of your infantry, you can then have your archers hold fire and attack, and they will engulf the enemy infantry who are engulfing your square, and just totally lay waste to them. It's kind of a beautiful thing. Sometimes it feels like I can't miss with that spear, and then other times I'm pretty pathetic, just missing every shot that I possibly can, like right now. He died eventually. See, like I was saying about that perk that causes them to retreat, look, they're only like half my power bar in their own strength, and they are retreating to the edge of their side of the map, which we were able to destroy them all along the way. And they're not absolutely out of this yet, but they will be. Look at that. That saves us a lot of troops and trouble. It also makes it so that you're getting all that less EXP, but as I said, at this point, at this point in this campaign, this sounds funny because the goal is to get to level 56. That's why I started this series. But at this point in the campaign, I'm not real concerned about getting EXP from battles, because that's not how we're going to get there. We're level 33 when we started this video, this episode, and so we've got another 23 levels to go before we've reached the goal for the series, and we're going to reach that goal soon, but we're not going to do it through battle combat EXP. I've done that. I've gotten to level 56 with, I want to say, 4 characters at least, the hard way, doing it through battle. And yeah, having done that, I would never wish that upon any of my viewers or myself again. It's a lot of work just to get to level 56. And the game caps you at level 62. And at level 60, you get your last attribute point, so you absolutely want to get there. And I have made it to, oh gosh, I have made it to 60 and almost to 61, the hard way through battles. That was the plan originally, was that I was going to, for this series, I was going to take Penkennick and Lanniken and Abcomer, and I was just going to hole up there and defend sieges whilst at war with the entire map for like 300 episodes in order to get to level 56. But I found a better way, and so I'm going to use my platform to let you guys know a better way to do that. We're at a point now where we don't need to be at war with the Valandians. We don't need to be at war with the Western Empire. And so the Valandians, after having sacked 3 of their armies, they're actually ready for peace, as so long as I pay them a paltry sum. And I think I'll probably take them up on that. This is actually a really nice map for field battle defending sieges, because it starts you out right there where you just got to run your guys a short distance, and they've got a sweet downhill vantage on the enemy troops as they approach. Like, Drumore Castle is pretty awesome. That's something like Tactical Enlightenment likes to, he does a whole lot of epic sieges, which are really cool if you like that kind of thing. I'm not a big fan of the siege battles myself. I always prefer these big field battles, and so it's a rare thing that I'll break into a fief and auto-resolve. Auto-resolve's actually probably the most optimal way most of the time to do a battle, a siege battle, but he'll break in and fight the battle out, and it makes for a pretty cinematic view. I don't think he's ever said that, oh yeah, this is actually the best way to win your siege fights. He's aware of the fact that the auto resolve works much better, but I personally much prefer having a field battle right outside the fief, because you lose troops busting into a fief, and often I lose more troops doing that than I do in these battles, these field battles. I mean, obviously, also, sorry, but Tactical Enlightenment, he contrives these massive field battles. I mean, these sieges. And when I say contrive, I mean he like tries to get them. He tries to get them as big as possible, meaning he'll garrison up his fiefs, and the enemy will throw an army at it, but he'll sit and wait and give the enemy time for another 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 armies to show up and fight them. I don't do that. I don't do that in my campaigns, so I don't think it's useful to show viewers. And I'm not mad at him for it. Like I say, he's making a cool spectacle, and he advocates for people to, use the mods that he uses so that the enemies will be ramped up and able to put together multiple huge armies in order to have these big epic battles. But I think a battle can be just as epic if you're it's just a matter of ratio, right? Like it doesn't matter if the enemy's got 6,000 troops. If you've got 2,000, it's still just 3 to 1. You could just be in a battle where you've got 200 troops and the enemy's got 600. It's the same thing. And you can do it without mods and without a monster of a computer to run it on. Obviously, my computer is not a monster. And a lot of people are playing on consoles and can't have the mods. So I've never personally enjoyed using mods. If a game isn't good enough to stand on its own 2 feet, generally I don't want much to do with that game. That's not to say that I'm trying to trash Tactical Enlightenment or anybody that uses mods. I'm just trying to explain my thought process and reasoning for the way I play my game. So we found Caladog. Looked like he was on his way to Druamore Siege, and we probably should have let him get there, because then we would have been able to take all of the prisoners and given them to one of my companions to sell in the castle. But as it is, we've attacked him on. Well, I ran into him while he was on his way to Druamore, and and he then started to run away from me, and so we're quite a ways away, and I'm not going to bother with collecting prisoners and shuffling them into the castle, because we have repelled all of the sieges currently that we needed to defend, and now it's time to get down to business. My real purpose in still having a war against Britannia and the Northern Empire is I want the fiefs of Seonon, the town Seonon, and the neighboring castles of Flinthulg and Uthleim. The reason why I want those fiefs is because each one of them has a wood producing village, and they're all like located centrally around the town of Seonon. So all of those villages will be trade bound to Seonon, and it's a fantastic place to do any blacksmithing you want to do. And if I own them, then I don't have to worry about another kingdom taking them and then that messing up the availability of those villages being trade bound to Seonon. So that is why, that is our purpose. Current. I again got a late command for that square formation on my troops, so I just told them to attack. And here we're going to give my archers the hold fire, because my infantry is definitely going to need it. They didn't get a chance to get defensive, really. And then I will get into the enemy's backline, and if not kill the enemy archers, then do a number on them, so they're not going to be able to focus so hard on raining death on my troops. Nice. I'd say Caladog was neatly dealt with there. He lost 10 troops. So from here, what we want to do is head to Seonon and siege it. And at this point in the campaign, I don't think Shonon's ever been taken by an enemy, so it should be pretty stoutly defended. And I'm at war with the Battanians, obviously, in order to start a siege. And they are pretty bent on sieging back some of these castles that I took from them in the last episode. So hopefully I will be able to get there and lay siege before they take anything else from me. I need to replenish some of these losses that we suffered. When I take prisoners, I only ever really take prisoners that are the lowest rank of the troop that I want to recruit most of, which is, of course, the Battanian Fian line. So I believe it's like a Highland Youth or something like that. See, there's another army getting started right there. It's already up to 194. Oof. But I think we can beat him there. And if we can get there faster than he gets to the fief he wants to take, then we could probably finish our siege faster. And since Seonon is the only, it's the only fief that I want left from Battania, I can sue for peace as soon as we're done with this siege. And we were able to set up our siege camp before he was able to take the fief, so we're in good shape. Though, as I said, there are like some 800 odd troops defending this fief, so we're outnumbered 2-1, and we're the aggressors in this siege battle, which is not ideal. But so at the time of recording this video, my habit had been to retreat my infantry out of the map, which isn't entirely a bad thing to do for me, being as my infantry is comprised mostly of veteran Falksmen. I really like the Battanian veteran Falksmen, but their strength is not in siege battles. They are a skirmisher troop because they have 2 stacks of throwing axes, which I like because then you can use the F1 F4 command to engage, and they will run within range and then throw their throwing axes, but then when the enemy closes on them, they will retreat. And of the infantry skirmisher troops, I like the Falksmen best because the other skirmishers, i.e. the Sturgeon Axemen, Heavy Axemen, and the Battanian Wildling, they are very heavily armored and are carrying around a big heavy shield. And because of that, they have a really hard time of actually kiting the enemy with any efficacy. So, yes, of skirmishers, I like the Battalion Falksmen best. They're moderately armored, but they don't have a shield that they're carrying around. And while they get a bad rap, people say they're crap. In a field battle, they're actually quite good if you have all of the captain perks for them that give them the ability to kite their enemies. So anyway, I like the Battalion Falksmen. If you've never used them, I recommend giving them a go. But it preferably you're gonna do best with them, obviously, when you've got all of the applicable captain perks at their disposal. And absolutely, I recommend the run speed banner. You can get an extra 30% movement speed for your infantry, and put that banner on those troops, and they'll do quite well. But they are awful in sieges. All they can offer in a siege battle is their throwing axes, and they're a target to get shot at. So I would just retreat them out of my siege battles, and I think that's probably the best thing to do, because the result was that when we started this siege, we had 100 archers and 150 infantry, and since I retreated my infantry, they left the battle, and my archers were joined by another 80 archers. Now, ideally, obviously, I would have an army comprised entirely of Fian champions. They are the absolute best for doing sieges, but beggars can't be choosers. So anyway, I'm going to try and gain a purchase. I have gained a purchase on the enemy walls here, and I want to see if I can do something about these catapults when they're trying to swarm me. I'm going to drop my shields so I can try and make sure I can stay ahead of them. When you're fighting on foot, the most important thing is your movement speed. If you can put yourself, like if you're standing in a bad position, it doesn't matter how cool you are, you're dead. So you need to be able to be fast, because that way you can be able to put yourself in a good position. And now I can cover this catapult and really save my troops some grief, which is fantastic. Just line them up there and plunk away at them. It would be really nice if I was good enough a shot that I could hit these guys as they are trying to reload the catapult. Because if you hit a unit as they're carrying the firebomb or the ammunition for a siege weapon, you will cause them to drop it. And you can actually eat up their entire store of ammunition that way, if you're a good enough shot, which I am not. Trying to get an angle where I'm not getting shot, but can still shoot at these guys. It's nice we've got an ammo bucket on this tower with us. And it looks like we've taken the lead in the power bar, which is huge. Now we still have 2 sieges that we need to do after this. We need Flinthulg and not Seonon. This is Seonon, but Flinthulg and Uthleim after this. So not a good shot, but if you can find a spot like one of these catapults where you know where they're going to be, you can find the right spot and then just kind of sit there and shoot that spot over and over again, because once the person that was standing there is dead, the next one's going to be standing there too. looks like we just got some reinforcements. I wonder if they're gonna get reinforced soon. It's worth noting though that indubitably 90% of my reinforcements are gonna be infantry, which is 90% comprised of my veteran Falksmen who really struggle in these siege battles. Their throwing axes are kind of nice. Like skirmishers aren't completely useless in a siege battle, but those rumfire pole arms have a really hard time operating on the tops of these walls. This is interesting. It looks like they've retreated and they just left behind a little group of troops there in that gatehouse. In case any of you are wondering, I can't actually see the inside of that structure any better than you can. I'm just, aside from the times that I'm shooting at silhouettes from the other doorway, I'm just shooting where I think the enemy might be standing and getting lucky. You can perform a shield bash. I don't know if a whole lot of people know this, but you can actually perform a shield bash when you're using a weapon two-handed. You just hold the block and then use your special move button, whatever you have it bound to. I have mine bound to 1. And you will perform a shield bash even though you don't have a shield equipped, and you just kind of basically bump the person in front of you with the haft of your weapon. And I know it sounds kind of silly, like, well, so what? Who cares? The thing is that if you don't run a character at like maximum height, which I don't, I usually run my characters like at about 40% height, so they're technically shorter than average, but I find that usually my character is a little bit taller than most of my enemies. But if you're not running at maximum height, then you're gonna have a really hard time hitting anybody with your kick attack, which is what a lot of people like to try and use for their shield breaker move. And maybe you like playing your character at maximum height. I personally don't like it because it not only does it make it so that you're kind of a bigger target, but it makes it so that your swings are awkward to me. I don't find them intuitive to be like swinging down at people. I'd rather swing level or a little bit up at people. I don't do a whole lot of melee in battles, like large battles, and so maybe that's why I don't like it. Maybe because I know it could be kind of easier to fight cavalry if you're extremely tall, from foot, I mean. But also, being extremely tall makes it kind of awkward to fight from horseback yourself, I find. So anyway, that's my line of thinking. I never use the kick attack. Not only is it awkward and not work very well if you are not a giant, but if you miss it, you've set yourself up to take a big hit, and that's not something I like to do. All that being said, I don't often utilize the shield bash either. It doesn't actually stun your enemy long enough to squeak an attack in past their defenses, but it can be used to create a little space when you really need it. So for the sake of brevity, I've sped up the video because we are suffering from a common siege battle bug, which is that one of the enemy troops has found a way to get himself lodged in a wall where we can't kill him. So what we've done in order to rectify this is we've just retreated from the battle, and then jumped right back into the battle. Now, this was a bit of a mistake because once you do that, you're then facing all of the enemy troops that were not only stuck in the wall, but the ones that have retreated back to the keep. And the reason why it was a mistake is because I left all of those siege engines for them to use in the next battle. So a better thing to do would have been to run around to all of the enemy siege engines and beat on them until they're destroyed before retreating, so that when I started the next battle, they wouldn't have them at their disposal to beat on my troops. You'll see I skipped that battle, but they did manage to inflict some losses on my army, despite their lacking in numbers. But we've taken Seonon for our own, and so we can go ahead and sue for peace with the Battanians and finish our work with the Northern Empire, which is the only kingdom that we are currently at war with. We've sued for peace for everyone else, and we are losing gold, but we have a stash of 330,000 gold that we can draw from as we attempt to get these last 2 fiefs that we need. I have plans to make a video about like fief management. I know a lot of people don't know how best to manage their fiefs, and a lot of the information that you'll find on YouTube is not like it's not bad information per se. It's just not all the information I've found. I think I've discovered things that I haven't seen other people voice on YouTube. So someday I'll make a fief management video guide, and I hope to do a couple of kingdom management video guides. I think that would be really good. Whew. Narrowly didn't get taken out by that catapult. That was a close thing. So we've told our troops to follow me and then run up to absorb some of the shots from these archers, so my guys can get into position and return fire. And once they're returning fire and in good position, I will tell them to hold their ground and see if I can get on these walls. I should have probably gotten the other ladder up. Sometimes the AI, it won't, they won't put up the second ladder. I'm gonna get up here and see if we can't deal with this catapult as quick as possible. Or at least one of them. Oh darn. Sometimes it's hard to use a nobleman avalanche in siege battles, especially. Man, maybe I can shoot thems that are working on that catapult. That'd be nice. There. Kind of incapacitated 2 of the catapults in one effort. Let's see if I can. That's kind of funny. I wanted to destroy the catapult so I didn't have to worry about someone coming up behind me and starting to use it again. But apparently, when you throw a bomb on the catapult at close range, it does practically nothing. Actually nothing, I think. Looks like they're low enough on troops. We can just go ahead and give the charge command, and my guys will come up the one ladder, and we can finish this fight. If someone's gotten, yeah, shoot. Oh, nice. They were able to get an angle on him with bows, even though he was glitched into the architecture. The architecture was rudimentary enough that we could still get a shot at him. So yeah, essentially, I always build the fairgrounds and then the workshop first. Those two things are going to enable you to do the rest, build the rest of your buildings faster. Sometimes, especially when you're dealing with a fief that is not of your culture, the loyalty will be so low that you aren't actually getting any. Oh man! Ha!
Hold right there.
God darn! I'm gonna have to do a big field battle just for the right to siege Uthlam, it appears. As I was saying, if your fief is too low on loyalty, the construction of that fief will dwindle to nothing, and you won't be able to build any of your buildings. And that is when you'll have to utilize either the festival and games passive activity in your building or your kingdom policies in order to raise the loyalty of the fief in order to finish the construction of your buildings. So that's the goal. Oof. Man. Nothing like eating a shot before you even get a chance to touch the enemy. And we're already down to half health. But like the most important function that we can perform, well, maybe second most important aside from, you know, actually giving orders to our troops, but one of the most important functions we perform in the battle is to get the enemy moving, get them attacking. So it's important that I come out and attack them ahead of my troops. So you can see they've already lost the bulk of their cavalry because they jumped the gun, because they thought I was jumping the gun. They thought wrong. So I wanted to take a moment at some point in this video to recommend some of my favorite Bannerlord content creators to my viewers. None of these channels actually need my help. They're all far more successful than my own. But I think it's nice to be able to recommend some good Bannerlord content where it's well deserved. As far as storytelling goes, I like to watch BIM94, Pitaz, and House Alliance. BIM94 does a really great job of recording an entire campaign and heavily editing it, and then writing a script and telling the story of the entire campaign in a single 45-minute video. He gives a very dry delivery, but for me it's reminiscent of like a documentary episode that you would watch on Discovery Channel or something, and I don't know, I really like it. I find it very entertaining. Pitaz, he mostly plays sturgeon campaigns, which is kind of perfect because I think he's from like the Netherlands himself, and so he does a great job of RPing as a sturgeon, and it's fun to listen to him give battle shouts and speeches to his troops, and curse in some Norwegian language as he dies in battle. Halsey Lion, he does more episodic videos showing his campaign. He does a really good job of editing where editing is necessary, and he writes great scripts for his voiceover. I highly recommend his videos, and some of them are actually kind of educational if you're trying to learn how to play the game, I think. As far as educational goes, I'd say the best content creators out there for that are undoubtedly Strat Gaming and Hero. Strat Gaming is kind of the quintessential uh, Bannerlord content creator on YouTube. He gives a lot of really great guides, and yeah, I think most people would agree that he is the first person that you ought to watch if you're trying to figure out how to play Bannerlord. That's not to say that I agree with all of the strategies or advice that he puts forward, but it's a great place to start at the very least. And Hero, I think Hero is a really cool formula. Like he must be a programmer or something, because what he does is he will look into the code of Bannerlords and tell his viewers how perks and mechanics of the game are actually working, so that they can optimize and play their best game, which I think is fantastic. And an honorable mention in this category would be Oklahoma. He focuses a lot on like showing the players how to RP in their campaigns. I don't know. I think he's fun. That's why I say he's an honorable mention. And he doesn't actually put out a ton of Bannerlord content, but he certainly has made some. And then I have Nightly Plays in a category of his own. He, I can't recommend him for like learning how to play Bannerlord at all. He makes some pretty questionable decisions, in my opinion, and in his campaigns. But he is very prolific, and if you're just jonesing for Bannerlord content, I can recommend him, because he puts out he's currently putting out 2 videos a day from 2 different campaigns. So put out one for each campaign, and that's pretty great. And then of course you have Tactical Enlightenment, which most of my viewers came from Tactical Enlightenment's channel, and he's been a good friend of the channel. He's shouted me out a couple of times, and he does Bannerlord like nobody else. He is educational as far as like learning how to win your battles go, and he's highly entertaining. So can't recommend him enough. Of all of the channels I would shout out, his is the best, easily. Now, having said all that, I'll bring your attention back to the game, where we are finishing off the Siege of Uthlame, the final acquisition that we had set for ourselves in our conquest. Now we have 10 castles and 2 cities. And with that, on Autumn 14, 1087, day 290 of the Black Lion Origins campaign, we will disband our army and our clan warbands and abdicate the throne, effectively destroying the kingdom that we had created. After doing so, I will garrison my standing army in Uthlame, and here is a look at my finances. We're making 10,618 per day. And a look at my character, the Butcher King. After having finished that campaign, we've reached level 34. We're capable warriors, but not much else. And this is a look at my fiefs and what I would do to develop them. I'll first do the fairgrounds and then the workshops, and then after that the gardens and or orchards, depending on whether the fief is a town or a castle. Those buildings will enable you to maximize the construction stat in your fief, allowing you to build your other buildings more quickly. After I've set all of my fiefs to building the right buildings, I put myself to the task of acquiring governors for those fiefs. Because while none of my fiefs are at risk of rebelling, because most of them are of my culture
Well now,
and
stranger.
or are castles and unable to rebel, it is very beneficial if you're not part of a kingdom to have a governor in a fief
Aye?
that is of the corresponding culture.
Peace
So
to
I
you,
went and
stranger.
found
If you
companions
come any closer.
for each of my fiefs. And I also occupied myself by going to war whenever I saw a weak kingdom
Stop there,
being
stranger.
abused by a
I bid you
stronger
peace.
kingdom. I
But
would step in on their behalf. And I used the loot that I gained from fighting these wars to defend weaker kingdoms to purchase the weapons from towns that would yield ore of at least the quality of steel or better. So any one-handed mace of tier 4 or tier 5 quality, any one-handed axe of tier 5 quality, and also the tier 4 spiked battle axe and battle axe. Any tier 5 one-handed sword, and tier 4 one-handed swords of the Ild, Cascara, Paramarian, Arming Sword, Fleesa, War Sword, Spatha, or Saber variety are worth acquiring. The tier 3 Cleaver and War Sword are also worth your purchase. In Britannia, you'll find the tier 4 Highland War Spear. In Sturgia, you'll find the fine steel hewing spear, heavy Druznik lance, and the tier 3 Druznik lance. In the Khuzait towns, you'll find the noble cavalry lance and the thin steel hewing spear. In Asarai fiefs, you'll find the tier 3 long Damascene tipped spear and the tier 3 fine steel leaf spear. In the imperial towns, you'll find the Pugio. In any town except for Khuzait fiefs, you'll find the tribesman's throwing dagger. And in all of the towns, you'll find tier 3 wide leaf spears and tier 3 Damascene pikes, and also the wooden hammer and pitchfork, which can be smelted for wood, which you definitely want to do. So, after 17 years of collecting and developing our fiefs, this is what we're looking at as far as our daily monetary gains is concerned. We're getting 28,677 gold per day. So again, after 17 years, my character, the Butcher King, has leveled to level 44, and he's become quite a good captain of the troops that I like to lead. This is a look at the final form of my towns. You'll see I build everything eventually, except for the trading fields, the granary, and the garrison. The reason why I don't build those is because I don't hold a garrison in my fiefs. Only Uthlame ever has a garrison, and that's only when I'm not using my warband. So in a castle, I don't build the castellan's office, the barracks, or the training fields because those are all things that are of benefit to a, a castle that is going to house troops. Like if you don't have a garrison, then you don't need to increase the amount of garrison that you can put in there. You don't need to reduce the cost of that garrison, and you don't need to increase their ability to train. So what I'm doing here is I'm laundering my trade goods. In this game, if you loot goods or acquire them through smelting, they don't actually count as trade goods. The only goods that you have bought from a vendor count as trade goods towards your trade EXP. So what we're doing is I sold him all of my blacksmithing trade goods except for the wood and the steel, and then I sold those to the markets at Shonen, and then I came back and bought all of those trade goods back. But I'm going to mitigate my losses by once I bought my blacksmithing trade goods back, then I'm going to sell him all of my other trade goods so that I'm not actually operating at a loss, or at least minimizing those losses. And then once I've sold them all of the trade goods, I'm going to buy them back. And after having bought them all back, I will then sell him all of my horses, except for select few different groups of horses, so as to be able to sell those horses to the market at Shonen in order to reduce the value of the horses here at the caravan. I'm going to take back the Cantarian chargers, the mules, and the sturgeon natives and sell those horses in Shonen. And at the same time as selling those horses, I will buy back my wood and steel that I had sold previously. And now I'll buy back all of the horses that I had sold and sell all of these bardings and armor, ranged weapons, and weapons that I had acquired and stocked up for this purpose in order to mitigate my losses. We're only losing about 1.5 million gold, or it's only costing us about 1.5 million gold in order to launder all of our trade goods. And having done that, we will retire the Butcher King in favor of his heir, the Crown Prince. You'll see he's 25th level, has basically nothing leveled at all, and absolutely no trade skill levels. And we will make our way to Sanala with our Crown Prince as the main character of the campaign. And we'll wait until a caravan comes right within range of the door of Sanala. And then we will sell to him some armor so that we can be sure that he always has something in his inventory. And then we will sell him everything we have all at once. And in so doing, you'll see we've made a ton of trade skill levels and actual character levels as well. So after having sold everything, I will buy back the steel and the charcoal and the Valenby coursers, mules, and sturgeon natives. I'll take those and sell them in Sanala in order to reduce the price of those goods from the caravan. Now I bought back everything all at once, all of the trade goods all at once. And that was maybe unadvisable. But then I go to Sanala and I buy back the charcoal and steel. And then I'll buy back the horses from the caravan and sell all the trade goods except for the steel and charcoal. And you'll see I made character levels again. The reason why you're making character levels here is every time you perform a task that would yield EXP in a skill, you also gain EXP in your character's level. And what we're doing here is we're performing tasks that would give us a ton of trade EXP. And because we're getting a ton of trade EXP, we're also getting a ton of character level EXP. I got the idea for doing this when I watched Hero's video on how to use an exploit to level your trade skill past your hard cap. He recommended putting a bunch of attribute and focus points towards that end. But I looked at that and thought, why waste the attribute and focus points? Why not just do it right when you made a new character and use an absolute ton of resources and level your trade skill up to 300? To me, trade skill is pretty useless except for the perk that you get at 300, which I think everybody ought to be able to do that without any trade skill. Anyway, it wasn't until I watched a video put out by Easy Merked where he used the same method to level his trade skill. He didn't actually exploit and level past the hard cap, but he used like 300 of each blacksmithing resource in order to slowly but surely level his trade skill up to 330. And as he was doing that, I noticed that he was making character levels slowly but surely. And I thought, oh my goodness, if you're gaining trade skill, you're also gaining character level EXP. And if I did it on a much larger scale, then I could make character levels faster. So you'll see, after just this short period of time, we've made level 36. But why stop there? You just keep doing it. So anyway, it was from these videos that I had seen on YouTube about how to power level your trade skill that I realized that you could actually power level your character's level as well. And because I had prepared in my Black Lion campaign to power level my heir's trade skill all in one move, I was able to utilize this strategy to level my character. And you'll see that we've reached our series goal of getting to level 56. But why would you stop there? Because the character cap, the character level cap in this game is level 62. And with just a little bit more work, you can level your character all the way to level 62 and cap them out. Now, I have leveled my character almost to 61 without using this method, and I can tell you this is the way to go. Some people might call it an exploit, and certainly there are exploits to use, but actually making your level this way is not technically an exploit. You are utilizing the game's uh, facilities to make your character levels. You're making trade EXP, and I think it's great because in your game there's so little you can actually do with the hordes of resources that you can acquire, but this is something you can do. I call it sending my character to college. I send my son to college, and now he is level 62, and I can build him as I like. I highly recommend saving your game before you spec your character, before you assign all of the attribute points and focus points. And I wanted to add that because I've had viewers or people that I've talked to say, well, why would you go to the bother? What difference does it make if your character is max character level when eventually one day he's just going to die of old age? Well, the thing is that your character's sons, like if you're playing a male character, its sons will start out at the same level as your character when they were conceived. So you'll see that my son here is starting at level 62. And so you only actually have to level your character to level 62 once in order to be able to enjoy having a maxed out character for the entire campaign. And I recommend making that what I call your forever campaign, where you don't make your goal the absolute conquest of Calradia, but rather the preservation of the kingdoms of Calradia. And that way you can always play that campaign. And there we have it. That this is how I would recommend leveling your character, not only to level 56, but all the way to level 62. And this has been the final episode of the Black Lion Origins campaign. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. I've enjoyed making it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.